I tried the Japanese Elders Longevity Walk for 30 days. For the last 30 days, I swapped my normal routine for a simple 30-minute walk. It's an interval method used by some of the longest-living people in Japan. The hope was, better health. But the actual changes to my blood pressure and fitness didn't just surprise me, they genuinely shocked my doctor. Here's what happened. For the last 30 days, I swapped my normal routine for a simple 30-minute walk. It's an interval method used by some of the longest-living people in Japan. The hope was, better health. But the actual changes to my blood pressure and fitness didn't just surprise me, they genuinely shocked my doctor. Here's what happened. Let's be real, we're all searching for that. That simple habit that actually makes a difference in our health without needing a total personality transplant. For me, that search had become a deeply frustrating loop. I was feeling stuck. Not tragically unhealthy, but definitely not thriving. My energy would tank around 3 p.m., my sleep was a mess, and my blood pressure was starting to creep up. My doctor called it elevated, which is just polite doctor speak for, you need to pay attention to this, like, yesterday. I knew I needed to move more, but the gym felt like a second job. An hour on a treadmill? Lifting weights? Honestly, it just didn't fit into my life or, frankly, my motivation levels. I tried the whole 10,000 steps a day thing, but it just felt random and endless. Some days I'd hit it, most days I wouldn't, and I never felt like it was actually making me fitter. It was just counting. That's when I fell down an internet rabbit hole that led me to the mountains of Matsumoto, Japan, and the work of Dr. Hiroshi No's. For over 20 years, he and his team at Shinshu University have been studying a specific walking method that has produced incredible health turnarounds in thousands of people. It's called interval walking training, or IWT. The idea is brilliantly simple but scientifically powerful. It's not about how many steps you take, it's about the and of those steps. The method, backed by over 2 decades of research, is super specific. You alternate 3 minutes of fast walking with 3 minutes of slow recovery walking. Repeat that 5 times. That's it. 30 minutes, at least 4 times a week. The results from their studies were what really grabbed me. Researchers found this exact method was way more effective at improving aerobic capacity, muscle strength, and blood pressure than just strolling at a steady pace for the same amount of time. One of the wildest findings was that when they asked a group to walk at a high intensity for 30 minutes straight, almost nobody stuck with it. They said it was too hard and too boring. But the interval group? They had high completion rates and saw amazing benefits. The breaks made it doable. Participants saw their aerobic fitness, a huge marker for longevity, improve by over 10%. Their thigh muscle strength jumped by up to 17%, which is critical for fighting age-related decline. And for me, this was the big one. Their systolic blood pressure dropped significantly. This wasn't some ancient secret. It was a modern, evidence-based way to make walking truly count. So I decided to give it a real shot. I bought a blood pressure monitor, took my before stats, and committed to 30 days. The first day was humbling. I laced up my shoes, went to a local park, and started my stopwatch. 3 minutes of fast walking. Sounds easy, right? Nope. My first question was, what even fast? The researchers define it as about 70% of your maximum effort, where you can spit out a few words, but a full conversation feels like a struggle. I tried to hit that pace. I focused on bigger steps, pumping my arms, feeling purposeful. It also felt ridiculous. I'm pretty sure people in the park thought I was late for a very important appointment that you could only walk briskly to. My breathing got heavy, and I was counting the seconds until that first 3-minute mark. Then, the slow down. 3 minutes of slow walking. This was somehow even more awkward. The research says to aim for about 40% of your peak effort, where you can easily recover. But my body just wanted to keep moving at a normal speed. Walking slowly on purpose felt completely unnatural, like I had to actively restrain myself. On that first day, the 30 minutes dragged on. I finished feeling a little winded, a little sweaty, and very self-conscious. The next few days were pretty much the same. The hardest part wasn't the physical work, but the mental gymnastics of it all. Juggling a timer while trying to nail 2 different paces was clumsy. I'd either miss the switch or get so into a podcast that I'd completely forget which interval I was on. On day 4, it was drizzling and cold, and the idea of going out to meticulously time my walking speeds felt absurd. This is that moment, right? Where a new habit either clicks or dies. The only thing that got me out the door was thinking, this is scientifically proven. People drop out for a reason. Just being consistent is the first big hurdle. I knew I needed a better system. I downloaded an interval timer app, the kind boxers use. I set it for 5 rounds, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, with a different bell for each. This changed everything. I no longer had to stare at my watch. I could just listen for the bell and change my pace. The physical part started to shift too. By the end of the week, the fast parts were still tough, but I wasn't as breathless. The slow parts started to feel less like a punishment and more like a welcome recovery. I was finding a rhythm. I wasn't just walking anymore. I was training. I knew I needed a better system. I downloaded an interval timer app, the kind boxers use. I set it for 5 rounds, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, with a different bell for each. This changed everything. I no longer had to stare at my watch. I could just listen for the bell and change my pace. The physical part started to shift too. By the end of the week, the fast parts were still tough, but I wasn't as breathless. The slow parts started to feel less like a punishment and more like a welcome recovery. I was finding a rhythm. I wasn't just walking anymore. I was training. If week 1 was about surviving the awkwardness, week 2 was about finding the flow. The ding of my timer app became a familiar, almost comforting sound. Ding, speed up. Ding, slow down. The routine was becoming automatic, taking up less brain space. I stopped feeling weird about my sudden speed changes and started to own it. This was my thing. The biggest change this week wasn't in my legs, but in my head. I started to really appreciate the structure. The 3-minute fast intervals were like little challenges I could absolutely conquer. But the real surprise was how much I started to love the slow intervals. I began treating them as moments of mindfulness. Instead of just not fast, they were a chance to focus on my breathing and actually look at the world around me. In our culture of go, 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 being forced to slow down felt revolutionary. I realized the recovery is just as important as the effort. It was also this week that I noticed the first real benefits outside of the walk itself. That 3 p.m. energy crash I always got, it started to vanish. I was getting through the workday without needing that emergency coffee or a nap. I also felt like I was sleeping more deeply. While the original Japanese studies focus on physical metrics, some follow-up research hints at benefits for mood and sleep, and I felt like I was starting to experience that firsthand. A morning walk was setting a better tone for the entire day. One afternoon, I realized the 30 minutes, which felt like an eternity in week 1, now flew by. The whole thing felt less like a workout and more like a structured break. Its simplicity is its superpower. There's no equipment, no driving to a gym, no complicated moves. It's free, and you can do it anywhere. One day I did it on a running track, the next on a riverside trail, and on one crazy busy day, I just did laps around my neighborhood. The walk was fitting into my life, not forcing my life to fit around it. This, I realized, is the key to why people can stick with it for years. It was no longer a chore I to do. It was becoming something I genuinely to do. Week 3 is when it all clicked. The vague feelings of "I think this is working" turned into undeniable proof. The change was real. The fast intervals now felt energizing, not punishing. I noticed I was covering more distance in the same 3 minutes. My pace had picked up naturally, without it feeling like I was pushing any harder. My body was getting more efficient at using oxygen. This is that VO2 max improvement the studies talk about. I could feel it. The small hill on my route that used to feel like a mountain was now just a hill. Even more telling was my recovery. During the slow walks, my heart rate was coming down way faster. I wasn't spending the first minute gasping for air anymore. I was settling back into a comfortable pace almost right away. My legs felt different too. stronger, more solid. It was a sturdy feeling in my thighs that wasn't there before. This lines up perfectly with the research, which showed big gains in thigh muscle strength for people doing IWT. Curiosity finally won. I was supposed to wait until day 30, but I couldn't help myself. Midweek, after my morning walk and a little rest, I sat down with the blood pressure monitor. I wrapped the cuff around my arm, trying to keep my expectations low. I hit the button and waited. And I just stared at the screen. My top number, the systolic, which had been hanging out in the high 130s, was now 128. My diastolic was also down a few points. It wasn't a fluke. I tested it again. Same result. For the first time in over a year, my blood pressure was squarely in the normal range. Seeing that number was everything. It was the hard data that proved what I was feeling wasn't just in my head. This simple 30-minute habit was actually working. It was measurably improving one of the most critical markers of my health. That one reading gave me such a huge boost of motivation. The final week no longer felt like a countdown to the end of a chore. It felt like an exciting countdown to the final results. On the morning of day 30, the final walk felt like a victory lap. The rhythm of fast, slow was completely second nature, a welcome part of my morning. The 30 minutes flew by. After my walk, I did my usual routine, shower, breakfast, and then sat quietly for about 30 minutes to make sure my body was fully at rest. Then, it was time. I sat down at the kitchen table, took a deep breath. First up, resting heart rate. Before I started this, it was usually around 72 beats per minute. I looked at my watch. It read 64. A drop of 8 beats per minute is a huge sign of better heart efficiency. My heart was literally doing less work to keep me going. And now, the main event. I wrapped the cuff on. My before average was a systolic pressure of 138, firmly in that elevated zone. The cuff squeezed, then deflated, and the final numbers flashed on the screen. I just stared. 122 over 78. I had dropped 16 points on my systolic pressure. 16 points. This wasn't a tiny dip. It was a life-changing shift. My result was even better than the averages in some of the original studies, where participants saw drops around 9 points. The most shocking part wasn't just the number, but how I got there. No pills, no crazy diet, no brutal gym sessions. Just 30 minutes of smarter walking, about 5 times a week. In 1 month, I had walked myself from a category of risk into a category of health. The feeling was just empowerment. I did this. It worked. The results were right there in black and white. So, was it worth it? 1000% yes. This whole experiment completely changed how I think about exercise. I was stuck in the mindset that exercise had to be punishing or complicated to count. I was obsessed with volume. How many steps? How many minutes? But the real secret, as Dr. Nose's research has shown for decades, is about the quality of that movement. This challenge taught me 3 things. First, intensity is where the magic is. Those short, fast bursts are what really push your heart and lungs to get stronger. It's the stress that forces adaptation. Unlike the vague goal of 10,000 steps, this method packs the most benefit into a super efficient session. You don't need to run a marathon to seriously improve your heart health. Second, recovery isn't weakness, it's part of the strategy. The slow walking periods are what make the fast ones possible. This rhythm of stress and rest is what keeps you from burning out and makes the whole thing feel totally manageable. And third, consistency is so much more important than complexity. The best workout is the one you actually do. The Japanese longevity walk is so simple. All you need is a timer and some space. That accessibility is its superpower. By removing all the usual barriers, cost, equipment, time, it becomes a habit you can actually build into your life. If you want to try this, it couldn't be simpler. 1. Warm up for a few minutes with an easy walk. 2. Walk fast for 3 minutes. Think, breathing heavy, can't hold a long conversation. 3. Walk slow for 3 minutes to recover and catch your breath. 4. Repeat that cycle 5 times. That's your 30 minutes. 5. Aim for at least 4 days a week. That's it. It's such a small time investment for a huge return on your health. I hope you found this story helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll have more helpful tips like this one coming up soon. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.